HOA's manicured nails clicked like a predator's claws as she waved a stack of $100 bills in Maria's face, her voice dripping with venom. "You owe the HOA. And until you pay, your little brat stays with me." Maria's heart shattered like cheap glass, her knees buckling in the dim alley behind the community center. Her 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was somewhere God knows where because this woman, this self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, had decided unpaid dues justified stealing a child. The air was thick with the stench of garbage and desperation, and Karen's smug grin only made it worse. It started innocently enough, as most HOA nightmares do. Maria and her husband, Javier, had moved into the Sunnyside Estates 3 years ago, chasing the dream of a quiet suburban life. The rows of neat houses, the manicured lawns, the promise of community, it all seemed perfect. But Karen HOA, the HOA president, ruled with an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove of fake smiles. At 300 pounds, with a penchant for gaudy floral dresses and an ego to match, Karen was the kind of person who'd fine you for a mailbox tilt while ignoring her own peeling paint. She thrived on control, her emails laced with passive-aggressive threats about maintaining property values. Maria and Javier, scraping by on 2 incomes, missed a few HOA payments after Javier lost his construction job. The fees were exorbitant $500 a month for community upkeep that never materialized. No one expected Karen to escalate from petty fines to something so monstrous. The conflict ignited at the annual HOA meeting. Karen had strutted to the podium, her voice booming through the community center's cheap speakers. "Delinquents like the Garcias," she sneered, pointing at Maria and Javier, "are dragging us all down." The room gasped. Maria's face burned. Javier's fists tightened. They'd paid what they could, but Karen's late fees had snowballed their debt to $3,000. When Maria pleaded for leniency, Karen laughed a cold, theatrical cackle. "Pay up, or face consequences," she'd said, her eyes glinting with something darker than greed. The next morning, Lily didn't come home from her playdate at the community park. Maria's calls to the park's supervisor went unanswered. Panic set in when Javier found a note slipped under their door. "Your daughter is safe. Settle your dues, or she won't be." It was signed with Karen's unmistakable looping signature. Maria's scream echoed through the house, raw and guttural, as Javier grabbed his phone to call 911. The police arrived, but Karen was untouchably first. She claimed Lily was visiting her cousin, a lie so flimsy it unraveled within hours. The cops found Lily locked in Karen's guest room, scared but unharmed, surrounded by HOA paperwork and Karen's collection of porcelain cats. What Karen didn't expect was the FBI. Sunnyside Estates wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a front. Karen's HOA had been skimming fees for years, funneling money into offshore accounts tied to a local crime syndicate. Her consequences weren't just personal vendettas, they were part of a racket. The feds had been watching, waiting for a slip. Kidnapping a child over unpaid fees. That was the match that lit the fuse. The alley confrontation came days later. Maria and Javier had tracked Karen to a shady meeting with her associates, hoping to catch her off guard. The air crackled with tension as Maria's voice broke through tears. "Where's my baby? You monster." Karen's laugh was cruel, her bulk blocking the alley's exit. "You don't get to make demands, sweetheart. Pay up, or Lily's gone for good." Javier lunged, but a cop's shout froze him. "Hands up." HOA. Karen's smugness faltered as flashlights cut through the dusk. exposing her. The feds closed in, cuffs gleaming. Karen's empire crumbled fast. The RICO charges piled up: racketeering, extortion, money laundering. Her kidnapping stunt wasn't just a power trip. It was the final nail in her coffin. At the trial, Maria's testimony was a quiet storm. "She took my daughter to punish us," she said, her voice steady despite the tears. "She thought she was untouchable." The courtroom was silent as the judge sentenced Karen to 25 years. Her floral dresses were traded for an orange jumpsuit, her smug grin replaced by a scowl that no one feared anymore. The neighborhood exhaled. Sunnyside Estates dissolved its HOA, and Maria and Javier moved to a new town, vowing never to let another Karen control their lives. Lily, resilient as only a child can be, drew pictures of her new home, her smile brighter than ever. But the scars lingered: Maria's nightmares, Javier's clenched fists whenever an HOA letter arrived in the mail. Karen's greed had cost her everything. But the real price was the trust she shattered in a community that once believed in her. Justice wasn't sweet. It was bitter, hard-won, and overdue. Karen HOA, the woman who thought she could play God, now sat in a cell. Her only kingdom a 6x8 concrete box. The world moved on. But for Maria, Javier, and Lily, the victory was hollow. They'd gotten their daughter back. But no one could return the innocence Karen stole. The end.